to some awesome science with me. My name is Dr. Erica, and I am super excited that you are here with us as we investigate weather. We have an awesome unit going on for the next 2 weeks, all about weather, which is going to end in a field trip to the National Weather Center. I'm super excited to be going over there, and we have Caitlin from the National Weather Center who's going to join us on our field trip in Zoom. So if you have any great questions, you can ask them to us, or if you're on, you can ask them to her. I know that Kaya already has had an awesome question about why was the sun red recently? And if you live in the West Coast states, you might also be wondering, why is the sun red? And we can ask her that, as well as answer that question, which will be really, really fun. And a big reason for that is all of the smoke that's here, which is a huge bummer because it blotted out the sun for us yesterday. I haven't seen the sun in days. So yesterday we learned a little bit about the sun and how it can contribute to the weather that we see. And today we are going to put on our engineering hats as we engineer a weather vane. So these weather vanes are kind of like their wind vanes, and they tell us the direction of the wind. And it's kind of fun because the direction of the wind can give us different clues about what weather might be coming our way. For example, if the wind is coming from the south, it's often bringing warmer air, and it's often bringing air that has more moisture, more water in it. And so that can contribute to weather. If it's coming from the north, it's often colder air and drier air, which is really interesting. And there's a lot of things about the weather on the earth goes from west to east, partly because of Earth's rotation. So it goes from west to east. So there's all of these sayings that like winds from the west bring fair weather, and winds from the east bring storms. Winter winds from the north might bring snow or hail. So we can use our weather vane to learn about the direction of the wind. And maybe over time, if we keep looking at it and noticing the weather outside, we can correlate similar things to that, which is cool. And I love today because I love engineering so much. It's one of my favorite projects that we always do. So to get our engineering hats on, we need some supplies. I've got my recycling bin. It's perfectly full today. Sometimes we get here and our recycling bin is a little bit empty, but I have a big recycling bin, which I'm gonna put down here for now. I have my glue gun. This is my trusty low temperature glue gun. I love hot glue. I have kindergartners. My kindergartner, well, she was a kindergartner last year, my first grader now, she was using hot glue in preschool, so I buy the low temp type. You can still burn yourself, but usually if you burn yourself once or twice, you kind of learned that lesson really quickly. And they're so useful in these engineering projects and building projects because it's pretty strong, tight bond. It's easy to do, and it lets kids be building on their own without your involvement, because often when us moms and dads get involved, we try to change things because we want to try something too. So let them make their own creations. So if you haven't yet, make sure you try to grab it at low temp. I've got all my hot glue too. I have a couple different types of scissors just to cut things with. I have a hole punch. I'm not sure if I'll need it, but I've got that. I have my craft sticks just for whatever I might dream of, and some masking tape. Then some important things I have in a cork. You could also use an eraser. I have a push pin, and I don't actually have a straw. We were going to use a straw to sort of attach it and make it spin. I'm going to show you guys how, if you don't have a plastic straw, you can still do this project. I'm going to still make it with a craft stick, and I'll show you guys how I do that part. All right. So as we look at the wind vanes, if you've got our printout, you can look at some of these things of what wind vanes do. And if you don't have our printout, you should totally subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you get our notifications so you know when we're live, and you can support us on patreon.com/rosieresearch, and that gets you all the emails before we go live, and also all of these awesome downloads.
Did you want to tell them about that the biggest wind vane?
Yes, I was going to mention that as we build, but yes, I found a picture of one of the world's largest wind vanes. Evan's going to put it up for us. It's amazing. It is a plane. It's like an entire plane is a wind vane, and actually it only needs about 3 miles per hour of wind. So, I mean, you guys can run 3 miles per hour. That's not super fast. The wind is like a slight breeze will rotate this massive plane. That is a cool wind vane. And actually pilots who are landing at the airport where this is at do use it to measure how fast the wind is going and what direction the wind is when they land, which I thought was really cool. So that is one of the world's biggest wind vanes. It's the size of a plane. Who would have guessed? I think that's pretty cool. All right, so some things that wind vanes need. One of the things that wind vanes need to do is they need to swivel, because if it doesn't swivel, it's kind of like just having an item in the wind, right? We want it to swivel with the wind so that we know which direction the wind is going. If it doesn't swivel, we don't really know which direction the wind is going. So one of the things we want is for it to swivel. One thing for wind vanes is they have a nice flat surface, and that actually helps it sense the wind. So not only do we need it to be able to move, we want it to be sort of skinny on one side and really big on the other, so that the wind, if it's changing direction, might hit here and it swivels until it's going alongside. So maybe the wind's coming this way, my wind vane does nothing. It's going along with the wind. If my wind changes direction a little, it might swivel that way. It'll swivel that way, so it goes, so it can always swivel, but you want one side that's a little skinny. All right. They are creative. You'll notice even on this picture, I've got an arrow, I've got a whale, I've got two people hanging out. So you can be really creative. I want you to think about, what is my favorite thing? What would I love to look out my bedroom window and see spinning around? Because that's what you should make. All right, you could make an arrow if you love arrows, but if you love something else, make your own unique wind vane. And then the other thing about wind vanes is they need to be attached to a structure so that they can be stable. They don't just flop over. So these are some things we want to think about as we're engineering. So as I'm thinking about that, I'm thinking, to be creative, I kind of want to do a narwhal. Narwhals are one of my favorites. So I'm thinking my wind vane might look like this. Maybe it's like a little narwhal. And it's got like a little guy. And the way that I want to think about this, I want to think about, how am I going to put it on, right? And so I'm going to have the piece that swivels that's here, that would be like a popsicle stick. And then the pin's going to go through it into a cork, like that. And then I need some sort of stability, which I'll have to figure out. And this way, I want this whale to be really skinny, so maybe from the back end, it sort of just looks like this. It's going to be really thin, so that this can swivel in and out. So then I have my swiveling, I have my creativity, which is that one. I've got my sort of big surface. Notice it doesn't have to be a rectangle, and it doesn't have to be symmetrical, just like this whale has different amounts of surface in different parts. And then I'm going to connect it to something. That's sort of my plan. I know if I want to label things, I'm going to have a popsicle stick. It's always good to label things. This is going to be a cork. I'm thinking maybe I might have some cans, like old olive cans or tomato cans. This could be really good if it was cans that are like stacked, maybe? So I'll write stacked on there to remind myself. It's always nice. I'm thinking I really want to put this outside, and I really want to use it a lot. And I'm thinking to myself, the cans are totally fine in the rain. If I made this out of cardboard, I don't think that'll work very well. So I want some sort of like plastic, maybe. I'll have to search through my bin to see what I have available to me. And then this could be like a popsicle stick, right? I could just cut it. That would be good. All right. Oh, and then I also have this little push pin that's in here. I can't forget about that push pin. It's really important. All right, so I have sort of a labeled diagram, and I have a plan on what I'm going to build. The first thing I'm going to work on is actually the swivel part, because that is one of the most important things of this wind vane. If it can't move and can't rotate, it can't tell me which direction the wind is going. And on our supply list, we have a plastic straw, which would be really easy. You would just poke your push pin through your plastic straw. I don't happen to have the luxury of a plastic straw today. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to poke my push pin through my popsicle stick. And now this does not like to rotate very much. So I'm going to try going in from the other side. I need that whole, like, I don't want it so big that it just flops, but I also want it to be big enough where it's not really hard to move. Like, this is pretty hard to move. So I'm going to open up this hole a little bit. And one thing I could do is I have these little tiny scissors. Maybe I could take the scissors and I could move them in my hole like this. That sort of just scrapes out that extra little bit. Now again, if you're using a plastic straw, you might not need to do this. But it could be a great skill to notice and use later. You could put that in your little tool bin and you could use that building skill later. Because I know a lot of times when I do an engineering project, I learn a lot for the future ones that I do. I'm gonna see if this works a little better. It's working a little better. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna try again and maybe give it a second go just to open it up a little bit more. Because I really want it to be able to spin really easily. That way it'll be more sensitive. I don't need 3 miles per hour to move. Mine, maybe I only need just a breath of my air. All right, I think that's probably pretty good. Let's see, we'll take a look. Oh yeah, see now how that spins? I just opened up the hole a little bit. And my plan is gonna be to put this sort of on the top of this, and then my weather vane will be attached to this. So I sort of have a beginning weather vane already, and I'm thinking I probably want to make it a little bigger. I really want my narwhal to show. So I'm gonna just glue sort of some extension pieces on here. And you might be thinking different things with yours, and that's totally fine. The best thing about engineering projects is there's not a right answer or a wrong answer, right? We will all find different challenges, and our goal with every engineering project is to not give up. Oh yeah, this is gonna work great for me. I'm gonna add it to the other side too. And then I'll have this nice big area to glue onto. I think that'll be really lovely. All right, I don't wanna glue on my pin because I don't wanna make it, my pin stays the same spot. It doesn't rotate, it doesn't move, right? You can kind of see it. It doesn't move at all while my wind vane's gonna move. So I wanna make sure I don't glue anything to this part right there. That's gonna be really important. In fact, I could even maybe make a gap. That way, ooh, I could try to help and make sure that when I glue my stuff on, the pin is always sort of already stuck in the middle. And I'm noticing if I glued this on, well, it might work. I'm gonna give it a little extra height by just breaking one of these, or maybe I'll just cut it. I'm gonna make it a little higher right over that so that it doesn't hit the pin, and the pin can stay stationary while my wind vane rotates. I'm just gonna put that on there like this. I am super excited to see what everybody makes. You can always email me your creations at drerica@rosieresearch.com. That's how you get into the pre-show too, which is pretty cool. All right, so yeah, now I can put this piece on here and it can all spin. You notice that my little pin, it's like, it's not touching any of it. So the pin and the popsicle sticks are completely independent. So I'm gonna, whoops, I am gonna make sure that I add glue right here, just like that. I'm gonna glue this guy on the top, and I'm gonna double check that this works for me. Because if it doesn't work, it's not too late to start over. I don't have my beautiful creation. I haven't spent all the time making something I'm really attached to. So I wanna make sure this works, and it does. Which is cool, because now I can just glue straight onto these pieces right here. That makes me really happy. I'm really excited about that. All right, so I have this piece that is ready to go. Now I need to think about how I'm gonna make my narwhal. And I did want plastic. I'm looking through this bin. I have a couple pieces of plastic here. Maybe I could use this piece. Maybe that's big enough. Let's try this piece. That might be big enough. And I could take this blueberries off. They were delicious, let me tell you about that. They were so good. I love this time of year because I love all of the fruit that's out. So wind vanes to measure like the direction of the wind have been around for thousands of years. In fact, the oldest one we know of dates back to the Chinese. It's 139 BC is what when they dated it to. So we've been measuring the direction of the wind and using that to inform sort of what's going to happen locally for a long time. The Greeks had this tower that was a wind vane on the top. It was like a person holding this really cool weapon, and the weapon would spin. And then inside the tower was also sundials and water clocks. So it was kind of like a scientific instrumental area right there, which is interesting. I kind of wonder what they use all of those things for. Like, what made them build them all together? Were they doing some weather studies? Did they know something that we have lost knowledge for since then? I don't know. We can only find out. All right, this is not coming all the way off, but I don't think I'm going to let that bother me. I think, I don't know. Maybe I'll just, I have a blue marker because I knew I wanted to do a narwhal, so maybe I'll just color it in blue and it'll be a slightly different shade of blue. When we do engineering challenges, especially those outside of our recycling bin, we've got to give ourselves some grace and space. We can't get super angry about it not being exactly what we want, you know? Because it's hard to be exactly what you want when it's coming out of a recycling bin. All right, I am going to draw my narwhal. In fact, I'm thinking if I draw the body here and the tail coming up, I could even skip that spot, which is awesome. All right, I'm going to draw it on this side. I'm going to draw a big body for my little narwhal. It's going to be like a square narwhal. And it's going to have its little tail. So notice I'm drawing it before I cut it. Now I have sort of a line that I can cut on. I'm a little worried that maybe this isn't going to be big enough to capture the wind. So as I'm cutting this out, I'm trying to think of what else could I do that would make this a little better. Maybe if I put my little narwhal in an ocean area with that had a bigger plate that could capture the wind a little better. But before I do that, I think I'm going to test this and make sure that it doesn't work. Because what if I'm wrong? What if I might be surprised that I don't actually need nearly as much wind to make this go as I'm thinking. So maybe this little narwhal will be perfect. And I wouldn't know that unless I just give it a go. And I can edit and modify afterwards, which is sort of very handy. That's a good way to go about engineering. I know when we're younger, it's really hard to not have something work out perfectly. So I'm thinking about putting it like that. I might put it further up. Ooh, what if I put it back and I had like a little like water spray attached to it? Ooh, that would be cool. All right, I'm gonna put it here then. Now this is gonna be tricky because when I glue it, I need to hold it really still so that it still sticks to it. Otherwise it's gonna like flop over. I'm gonna put a lot of glue, which is gonna make it even trickier because it's gonna take it longer to dry. But I wanna make sure that it really has sort of a good base for it to stick right there. So I'm just gonna hold this. You'll notice as I'm moving it around a little bit too much. Just want to hold this as it dries. Sometimes with plastics, you want to be really careful with your hot glue because it can warp the plastic, especially if you have a really, really hot glue gun, the kind where the glue comes out steaming hot. Those, sometimes it'll make your plastic a little warpy and funny. You'll put some waves in it. So you just want to know that that might happen. But I'm just going to sit here and hold this for a minute. I'm pressing down and I'm trying to be really still so that it'll get a good sort of spot in there with the glue, and the glue will really adhere to both the popsicle sticks and my new little narwhal. Maybe I should have cut the tusk of my narwhal out of the plastic too. Ooh, that might have been a good idea. And it's never too late. I could just add that in.
You can make it an extra big tusk so it acts as part of the wind vane.
Yes. That would be cool. All right, so this is kind of in most of the way, but I'm just gonna, I really want it to be nicely in there. All right, ooh, I'm noticing a problem. This came out of here and I'm not able to really push it in as much as I'd like, but I can. I'm really glad I have that little top piece right there. That's kind of handy actually. All right, I'm gonna glue the tail in a little bit too back here, just to make sure that the wind doesn't make anything flop around too much. I'm really liking how this is coming together though, because I feel like I could really decorate the cans I'm going to use as like an underwater sea theme. And if I make it out of various pieces of plastic, it's all recycled, so it's like, that's kind of fun. It'll be really pretty in our forest, or by our forest. Of course, maybe the owls will get a little confused. They'll think they're under the water. All right, so this guy is in. So it took me a little bit of time, but that patience really paid off because it's really stuck in there, and I didn't have to add lots of tape in all sort of different places. So I feel like that really paid off for me. I'm happy about that. I can stick this in here. Ooh, it does. Notice that if I'm blowing, it does move it some. That's good. Now I'm curious, do I want to add more stuff? I definitely need my narwhal's tusk. So I'm feeling like I might grab it from a different one so it can be a nice, really big, sillily large tusk. Go big or go home, right? I'm gonna do the same thing that I did before. I'm gonna draw my tusk. So I'm gonna sort of think about, I mean, should we go really, let's go really big. So maybe I'll draw a big tusk like that I can put on there. And now I am ready to cut that piece out, and I could just glue that to my narwhal. And I'm going a little bigger than I think I want. So hopefully if I want it to be a little skinnier, I can cut it down some instead of putting it on there and finding out that, ooh, that was a little too skinny. And you can't add extra. You can always cut extra off. Oh my gosh, that's adorable. Look at that. Oh, I love it. It's a very big narwhal. All right. I think maybe more towards the front. That could be like my pointer piece. All right, so we're gonna add that on. Just a little bit of glue should do for this guy. Now I might go back and use sort of some super glues instead of just hot glue. I'll have to see how it holds together outside. Sometimes hot glue doesn't hold together as well as we'd like outside. All right, and I am going to, I feel like art is like the best part of every engineering project. I'm gonna make my narwhal super cute. I'm gonna draw a little eyeball, and by a little eyeball, I mean a way too big for it eyeball, because I don't know, something about babies having really big eyeballs, like baby animals, they have these huge eyeballs and it makes them so cute. So we're gonna draw a huge eyeball on this little narwhal to make it super cute too. And maybe a little smile is in place too, because my narwhal's happy. Oh, look at that. There's my little narwhal. It's gonna be super cute. And I'm gonna add some little swoops to its tusk, just like that. I feel like I definitely have the creative part of my wind vane down here. I'm really happy about that. I know it can swivel, so I'm happy about that. I can push this into my cork. If I want, I can sort of reach in and get it pushed in really good. There we go. And it can spin. That is nice. I'm thinking I might add something here. Maybe, there's a book, Narwhal and Jelly. Maybe I need to add jelly. Oh, I should add jelly. Maybe I'll do jelly in Zoom. Let's talk about how I'm going to make sure that this is on something stable, right? Because we need to connect it to something. I was thinking it'd be kind of fun to connect it to sort of the top of some things like this so that it could really be stable. And if the wind were to blow this over, I could always fill these with rocks to make it really heavy. I wonder how many of these I have. We had some olives this week. These all sort of fit together pretty great. I'm gonna put this one on top. It doesn't like to fit as well. There we go. I don't really like the tomato and the olive labels, so I think I'm going to take those off. You might like it. It might be an add to your decorations. It might like tell the story you want to tell a little bit better. I think for mine it takes away from it a little bit. So I'm gonna take this part off because I don't think that helps me tell the story of what I want to tell. And then I can glue these pieces together. And again, if I put it outside and I find out, wow, that really did not work the way I wanted it to, what I could do is I could fill the bottom one with rocks, and that will help it be really, really stable. So I'm just gonna take this and I'm gonna glue around these edges. And I've never glued these cans together, so I'm just gonna add extra glue. I'd rather have too much than too little. And if it squirts out the sides and I don't like it, I could always decorate that with something later. See how these got these little bubbles? Could also, my glue's not so hot, I could actually just sort of rub it around just like that. Oh, I'm so excited because I can put like little corals on this maybe. as extra decorations. That would be really fun. I really like the idea of adding jelly to this. Not quite ready for a new glue stick. It's always that spot where it's like, just needs it, but the glue stick can't quite fit. All right. So I could add this here on top. Oh, I have this beautiful tower of cans now. Oh, perfect. This is a great use of our recycling bin. I'm super happy about this. I can add my little piece here. I want to make sure, I'm going to add a lot of glue right here because I really want to make sure that cork does not move. And again, if I find out in the weather that the glue is what's making it not work as well, it's coming apart because of the glue, I could just choose a different glue. Oh, look how cute my little narwhal is, and it spins for me, which makes me really happy. That tells me it's gonna measure the wind. I think I might add a jelly here with some streamers coming down because that would be really fun to see it sort of stream in the wind. And I know narwhal and jelly are best friends and they love to explore together, so it seems like the perfect thing to add to this. But this is gonna be my wind vane for right now. I think I'm gonna keep decorating and add to it in our Zoom room with our Zoom friends. But here's an idea that you could make. I really, really hope that you guys email me your pictures of what you decide to make, because I'm guessing it probably wasn't a narwhal. Maybe you guys have other characters or you have other things you like to build with that you use, and I can't wait to see what you create. And then you can put this outside. You'll need a marker for where north or west or south or east is for you. So for example, I could put this here and I know that towards you guys is north for me, and behind me is south, which makes that west and not east. So I could put this in the ground and I could put a marker so that I knew if it was pointing this way, where the wind was coming from. I could say, oh, if it's going that way, the wind is maybe coming from the west and it's blowing it this way. It's a great way to learn about the directions of our wind. And it can also sometimes tell us about what weather we might experience in a day or two, which is kind of cool. All right, thank you guys so much for joining me on this engineering challenge. If you loved this engineering challenge and you want to do some more, you should check out our YouTube channel because we have a ton of them. We've been engineering for the last 6 months together, so you have so many options for that. And if you loved the weather aspect of this, make sure you join us tomorrow and next week as we keep exploring all about the weather. Have a great afternoon, and I'll see you guys in Zoom. Bye, friends.